Alright. Well, I doubt there's much of use in here, specifically. There's literally nothing. Okay, well then, that's neat. Hello, squidlets. What? Oh, this is not the entrance to the gymnasium. Huh? That's weird. This is the hallway I walked through to get to the gymnasium, but it's clearly different. This Monokuma's doing too? Is he trying to infuse this again? I don't know how he's doing it, but he keeps doing it over and over again. He's so persistent. I'm not gonna fall for his trap. There's no way this will make me back down. Yeah, stream's going pretty well so far, I think. I mean, aside from the world is falling apart. That's a bit of a damper on life. Yes, I know. This hallway, there is a strange feeling in it, no? As if an invisible wall has been erected to limit our movements.
I am concerned.
Is it just me? Oh, that looks odd. But where can we go in here? What is Hawk2 like a greeting now with the youths? I'm not sure how I feel about that. Better than a crypto scam, at least, I suppose. Though I will say, because I mean, you may have heard of the Haley Welch, the Hawk2 girl, was apparently caught up in a crypto scam or something. I will say, in her defense, like, in law, generally there is a concept of, like, the reasonable person standard, which, like one of the ways, sort of, that it applies, is like in a self-defense scenario, it can be like, well, would a reasonable person think this is a reasonable amount of self-defense to use? In an advertising scenario, it can be, well, like puffery can be accepted if like a reasonable person would know that the claims are being puffed up, right? So like if I say, oh, it's the best thing ever, then a reasonable person knows that's just puffery. It's not a literal fact. I'm saying. I kind of feel like under like a reasonable person standard, it should be like maybe it should be impossible to be guilty of a crypto scam because they're all scams. Like I feel like any reasonable person like kind of deserves to lose their money if they invest in the Hawk2 coin. In any case, is this a dojo? It's full of strange things that make me think there's no way we're inside a school. Perhaps it's a mistake to expect the inside of this building to make sense. And then the other thing I don't quite understand with the Hawk2 coin scandal. Right, I'm not sure actually what they're being charged with, or I don't know if they're spending any charges. I don't know what they could be charged with, because like you would immediately think to like a securities fraud and insider trading. But as far as I was aware, I didn't think crypto coins were technically considered securities, regulatorily just yet. Like it's probably where they're heading, but I don't think that's the current legal framework. So, but I mean, there's probably generalized fraud statutes you can get them on. That target seems pretty far away. If the production team had more time, there could have been a minigame here. What happened so far? Well, if the production team could have had more time, there could have been a minigame here. Wait, what am I saying? The reality of the world is falling apart. We're in Hope Speak Academy now. We're apparently extras. Isn't this the room from last game? Yeah, we're in Hope Speak Academy now. There's a straw post. I guess that means it was used for training. There are a bunch of wooden lockers here. Each of them has a traditional-looking woodlock key sticking out of them. I guess they're just for show. There's nothing in particular that looks like a clue. What about the cherry blossoms? This cherry tree is in full bloom. It may be a tasteful sight to see a blooming cherry tree inside a dojo. But in this situation, it just looks bizarre. its armor and a helmet. Did the map developers design this to reflect the Japanese dojo? And also, for some reason, we got like way more fourth wall breaks all of a sudden. Which, again, not saying I called it, but, you know, first stream, simulation theory was one of the things I floated, so... Not saying I called it, but I called it. Huh, what is this? A History of Hope's Peak Academy? By Monokuma? Is this a manga? The title is Manga for Morons, A History of Hope's Peak Academy by Monokuma. Why is a manga with such a suspicious-looking title laying out in the open like this? Let's start with history first, class.
Hey!
Reading manga is the third best way to learn about history. Then what's the first, you ask? Experiencing it? That depends on the person. What was that? So just as I thought, Monokuma made this. That totally explains how suspicious it looks. I really want to just ignore it, but there's no way I can do that. Fine, I'll look at it. That I want to read the manga, it's just I have to read the manga, alright? I'm not a weeb or anything, I'm just, like, there might be a clue inside. I'll look at anything that might be a clue to getting out of here, no matter what it is. I picked up the manga off the floor and started flipping through the pages. It's an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy's history, as narrated by the cutesy character on the cover. The story begins with an introduction to Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy is a government-funded school of privilege where only the most talented high school students can hope to attend. Built to raise hope in the nation's future, many of its alumni are key leaders of various industries. New students are chosen through a scouting process, but the ones who scout them are Hope's Peak Academy's teachers, who serve as both educators and researchers of talent. Hope's Peak Academy isn't just a school for talent, it is also a school for researching talent as well. Interesting. However, for the past few years, Hope's Peak Academy has been suffering from a decline in funding. If this persists, the Academy believes they will not be able to make progress with their research of talent. So, like, for example, they might want to see how it's conceivable that Nagito can reliably win, like, 1 in 6 chances, like, over and over and over again. So they decided to implement a new system. The Reserve Department. Unlike the main department, who scouts for students, the Reserve Department utilizes a general entrance exam. Normal faculty was hired and placed in charge of looking after the Reserve Department. Okay, so what I'm hearing here is their, like, normal, like, top-of-the-line talent is basically like a lost leader, and then they actually make their money by also hosting just kind of a normal school underneath that benefits from the branding of Hope's Peak Academy. Interesting. The expenses and exam fees for the Reserve Department are quite high compared to most high schools. Nevertheless, Hope's Peak Academy received an endless stream of applicants. Hope's Peak Academy was now available to talentless commoners, people who only cared about the brand. That'll be a good episode name, Talentless Commoners. With this, Hope's Peak Academy managed to amass sizable funds and began furthering research of talent. This is kind of regressive, though, right? Like, because you're using, and granted, I mean, well, I guess the reason you get in is talent, I suppose. So it's not a strict class divide equivalent, right? It's not quite the same as you're taxing the poor to have, like, education for the rich. But it is I'm not sure what this would be. It's like a reverse syndrome sort of thing. I'm getting vibes of that, you know? To create Hope's Peak Academy, its earnest wish, a true genius who would become mankind's hope. But just when they thought everything was going well, an unprecedented incident occurred. The incident that triggered the tragedy. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. That's right, it was the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy was crippled by this incident, and was forced to shut down without accomplishing anything. The end. No, it's manga. Don't worry, the manga's over. You can come back now, guys. We're back in the normal experience. That has nothing to do with manga or anime or anything. Huh. The ending was so sudden, like a manga that's suddenly canceled in the middle of its run. Plus, these phrases mentioned at the end of this manga. The tragedy and the tragedy of Hope Seek Academy. Like, the tragedy, TM. These names are so melodramatic. There's no way these incidents really happened, right? This manga only mentions the names, so I don't really know the details, but... No, it'd just be a waste of time to wonder about things that don't make sense. More importantly, I learned something because of this manga. The Reserve Department. The department was only built to collect money. I was one of those reserve course students, right? I got scammed. Huh, that's weird. Oh, you're here again. Ah, the thing that's weird is you, of course. Huh?
Hey!
Why did you forget that you were part of the reserve department? Well, that's because the Future Foundation folks wiped all of our memories. The Future Foundation only took away your school life memories, right? Oh, wait a minute. Are you saying... He's saying I should... I guess what he's implying here is I should remember getting accepted into the reserve department or Hope Seek Academy, whichever one actually happened, right? If the memory loss only starts with the beginning of school. But you should have known even before you entered that you had no talent, right? Okay, fine. You're taking that angle. Like, I mean, actually, quite frankly, no. There's a lot of people who are very delusional in their abilities. Yeah, people who think they can sing really well, but they really can't. That sort of thing. Wasn't there? Yeah. The sort of people that have to go on, like, American Idol or something and are specifically the ones that get, like, laughed off the stage by the judges. Like, you are the worst singer I've heard in my entire 30-year career of judging music singing shows. Are they still a thing? I guess the voice is the big one these days, right? Anyway. So I think it's weird that you actually forgot something like that, too. What do you want me to say?
By the way...
Based on my assumption, the Future Foundation must have wanted to hide the fact that you were one of those reserve course students.
I got it!
Or you willingly sealed those memories yourself. Huh? You wanted to be confident in yourself, so you wanted to forget everything that embarrassed you. You know, when humans experience trauma, sometimes they erase their memory of what happened. It happens pretty often. Not that I know anything about that, though. Are you saying it's my fault that I forgot? That's not it.
Come on!
When things get inconvenient, you always get angry and try to brush it off. Well, that's expected of reserve course students. We need sound when you can spin a sob story. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem with those types of shows a lot. Damn it, what the heck? The reserve department has been added to the truth bolt section of your handbook. Most embarrassing moments are the most memorable. Yeah, that can also happen. Hello, Yara. Welcome to the stream. I'd fill you in on what's occurred. Oh, Kazuichi, you're here too. Where'd Sonya go? Wasn't she over there?
What's going on?
It's always kind of creepy. Can't go to places that I should be able to go to. It's like some rules being enforced for no reason. It's like there's an invisible wall or something. Yeah. Okay, so let's check around this way. Again, I know we couldn't go in here before, and we still can't go in here. Okay. Alright, is there like a door somewhere that's not locked? Oh, okay, this. 5A. Is that a book? This is another manga. It's laying on top of the desk. This one is Manga for Morons, The Tragedy of Hope Seek Academy. Huh. Wasn't the Tragedy of Hope Seek Academy mentioned in that other manga too? That's why Hope Seek Academy went bankrupt and It was the trigger for the biggest, most tragic, most awful event in human history, which must always be referred to by exactly that name, right? We can never shorten that. Or I guess we can shorten it to the tragedy specifically, but for branding purposes, it's the biggest, most tragic, most awful event in human history, as often as you can say that and get away with it. If I read this manga, will I be able to learn, or if I read this manga, will I be able to learn a little more about that incident? I took the manga from the desk and started flipping through the pages to see what I could learn about the event known as the Tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. The story made heavy use of outdated, stylized drawings depicting characters solving mysteries. What's written here is, as the name suggests, the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy occurred at Hope's Peak Academy. The key player in that event was a student named Izuru Kamukura. Izuru Kamukura? That does not sound familiar. Huh. Izuru was a genius known as a symbol of hope. Hope's Peak Academy used all their resources to develop him. Supposedly, Izuru was a genius among geniuses and possessed various talents. Wielding superior talent for the hope of mankind, the Academy referred to Izuru as the ultimate hope. To protect such a rare talent, the Academy completely concealed all evidence of Izuru's origins and identity. We just read the mangas and then leave? I don't know. I mean, I guess we're trying to piece together what's going on here. Because of that, most of the students at the Academy were completely unaware of Izuru's existence. But Izuru, who was known as the symbol of hope, was responsible for a horrible incident. 13 students of Hope's Peak Academy's student council, among the Academy's best and brightest, were brutally murdered by Izuru. However, the incident did not end there. The Academy tried to protect Izuru's superior talent and concealed the incident as though it had never happened. See, it's not the scandal that gets you, it's always the cover-up. However, a certain student began working in secret to use that incident to their advantage. That student uncovered what the Academy did, and by making that knowledge public, it stoked the fires of reserve course students who had long been dissatisfied with how they'd been treated. And the uprising began. And that heralded Hope's Peak Academy's destruction. This is the entirety of the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. I see, so there's some corruption, preferential treatment for their golden boy, and now the commoners are rising up. Eventually that incident would lead to that horrifying, devastating incident. The incident that would be known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Works cited. Danganronpa 0. With a heavy sigh, I closed the manga. Am I supposed to believe this? There's no way 13 people killed at Hope's Peak Academy. Well, I mean, by my count, I think it was what? 10? Nope. 11. 11. Almost forgot the principal. I know they're talking about different incidents here, okay? I know. It was a joke. What irony! For a genius known as the ultimate hope to cause such a gruesome incident! Well, the thing is, to have truly the deepest despair, it is not sufficient to just have, bad circumstances, but to be, dragged there from a place of hope is what's truly painful. A talent like that is too regal for society. It's like trying to buy juice with a bar of gold. Danganronpa 0 mentioned? Is that like a real thing? Danganronpa 0? Or is that an in-universe thing, strictly? Is that like a spin-off book or something? Oh, you should be lucky that you're incompetent! Damn it, he always has to lead up to something offensive. It seriously pisses me off. Danganronpa 0 is a light novel. Is that the one that's about Kyoko that I've heard about before? Or is that something else? But Ultimate Hope. Nagito mentioned that before too, but it looks like it means something completely different here. What Nagito said was the true meaning of hope. But for Uzuru, hope simply means talent. More importantly, a genius who possesses various talents. I wish they'd given me one of those talents, so I didn't have to be in the reserve department. That's right, the reserve department. Here it said that the reserve corps students in the reserve department began uprising. And what did that mean? Was I a participant too? No, that's not possible. Me? Uprising? Nah. Doesn't seem like the thing I'd do. There's no way. I have no reason to do something like that. Tragedy of Hope's Peak has been added to the Truth Bolt section of your handbook. Anyway, I've learned about the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy, but the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history is far worse incident, right? No, it's a real manga. Okay, interesting. What kind of incident was it? And who's this other student that isn't Uzuru? A certain student who secretly used the incident to their advantage. Who's that? This incident is really messed up, but all it's doing is raising more questions. Mysteries just keep piling up. Okay. Okay, so apparently there's a bunch of different light novels. Got Kyoko. So there, did you say there's what, like a Byakuya one too? Huh. Like translated? Or it's curious how we're only on the 5th floor specifically. I'm not sure if we'll get to the other ones, but an interesting choice for sure. Okay. The raw biolab. What the hell is with this room? It's freaking cold in here. It's like I'm in a freezer or something. If I just stand still, I might end up freezing to death. Hurry up and investigate so I can get out of here already. Oh, is that it? We're still doing this?
I've been found.
Huh. Yes, I noticed I'm at 666 monocoins. I'm sure that's fine. No problem there. I've seen this in movies before. It's a refrigerator for preserving dead bodies. At least that's what it looks like. But that's not possible, right? Keeping dead bodies in a high school biolab isn't something you should joke about. It just feels so forced. This idea should have been canceled during development or something. What am I thinking? Oh, that's the refrigerators again, right. Sorry, I thought I could examine the desk, but it was just refrigerators. It's fridges all the way down. This looks like a plastic tarp. Why is this left out like this? Clean up after yourself, so will ya? Yeah, I'm not sure if you're joking there, Sean, but I do think, like, granted, I'm sure it depends on the course and whatnot, but I think legitimately, like if on like your license or something like that, or if you're like fine, which is like I want my body donated to science, I think that's legitimate what happens to you sometimes. Is like you get volunteered as like a human like dissection thing, because I mean obviously you can do it on animals, but you know for certain things, if you want the real experience, the real deal, you gotta get a real dude. There's another manga just laying around here. This time the title is Manga for Morons, the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Well, to be clear, I don't think they're doing it in like the high school level or something. I would be shocked if there's not at least a college somewhere that has human dissections as part of their course. Like, that's gotta be a thing. I refuse to believe that's not a thing. Anyways, I knew it. The next one would obviously be about this incident. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Just what was that incident really all about? Might turn out to be something lame. I flipped through the pages of the manga and hoped that I was right. Alright, we're finally gonna learn about the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. It's been a long time coming. 2 whole games. Are they actually gonna flesh it out this time? We'll see. A story about creepily drawn characters who get involved in such horrifying incidents. An incident known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Is this drawn so grotesquely because the incident itself is that grotesque? Anyway, the beginning of this creepy manga starts with this sentence. The tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was simply the trigger. At first, the uprising by the reserve course students that triggered the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy was initially hoped to be resolved quickly, but the situation continued to escalate to dangerous extremes. The movement started spreading all over the internet, and fostered a thriving online community. The community was not limited to students, and people of various races and nations began joining in. That's not even... But the movement was not confined to the internet, and began spreading and eroding the real world. When the movement started, it was indistinguishable from any other demonstration inspired by social unrest. But as it spread across the world, certain abnormalities soon came to light. By then, it was too late. The ends and the means had vanished, and wanton destruction became their only goal. The strong butchered the weak killed the weakest among them, and soon the weak formed factions to brutally murder the strong. As the violence and death continued to spread, the shock of their actions began to disappear. As if the era was regressing to more uncivilized times when senseless deaths were the norm. The media was oversaturated with deaths to the point where people would watch them while enjoying a meal. By the time the world realized what it had become, it was too late to stop what had happened. A feeling of immense despair began spreading and eventually engulfed the world. Acts of terrorism and coups d'etats began occurring around the world. A war waged in the name of despair. A war fought not for principles, religion, or personal gain. Just war. Pure war. And because of that, there was no way to resolve it. How could a movement started by high school students progress to such a hopeless scenario? The only explanation is the existence of a certain organization devoted to a certain student who influenced Hope's Peak Academy. A group called Ultimate Despair. Instead of using Hope's Peak Academy's talents for the sake of mankind's hope, they used them for the sake of mankind's despair. Key members of society used their influence to brainwash the masses in order to spread despair. Tech-savvy computer programmers wrote software to spread despair. The powerful and influential created new values and morals to spread despair. And with this, they created the tragedy. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Okay, hold on. So just to be clear. So the tragedy of Hope's Peak is a distinct event from the tragedy, which is itself a distinct event from the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Just trying to get that straight in my mind. Okay. Going to play the spin-off or watch the anime? I have heard, so... Probably. I've watched the first season of the anime, but I think the second season is That's the experience after the second game, so I'll probably watch that at some point. Not on stream, obviously, for like, legal reasons. But I know there was the game Ultra Despair Girls. So that's, I think Chad has told me in previous streams that that's the next thing to experience. Games that never make the lore simple must be complicated. Yes. Indeed. Certainly in the era of the internets. Yeah, I was on YouTube and I saw, I think it was like a thumbnail pop up, but I think it was like Game Theory going at it on Five Nights at Freddy's again. It's like I get that's your thing, but also, and granted, I don't follow the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff at all, but like, I don't think there's been anything new released recently. So like, what are they, like, surely they must be plumbing the depths and running out of content for that at this point. Anyway, as long as ultimate despair exists, the despair engulfing the world will never end. The tragedy will never end. My heart was racing in my chest, but my body felt ice cold. Well, I mean, that may be due to the environment. And it wasn't because I was freezing in this room. Okay, fine, contradict me in the next sentence, thanks game. The biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. And this is definitely all made up. I mean, if this is really true, then what's happening in the outside world? My family, my friends, the convenience store I frequent, the nearby bookstore, my favorite restaurant. What's happened to them? The bodegas! We must save the bodegas!
No way!
Hey, are you seriously yelling at a manga? How crazy are you? It's okay, I have an audience. That means it's okay for me to engage in such weird behaviors. Ooh, enjoy reading something like this.
What?
Oh my, you don't like manga? Sheesh, man. Get with the program. It's becoming more popular by the day. High school student who doesn't like manga is like an office lady who doesn't like to eat candy. Probably healthier than their peers. Enough! What is this messed up manga? I thought you'd obviously know about such a horrible event that destroyed the world, but for you not to remember that, such despair. That's the Future Foundation's fault, though. Thanks to them stealing your school's memories. The incident that happened during that period has been completely removed from your brains. This incident really happened, and I actually forgot about it? There's no way that's possible.
What are you saying?
How many times do I have to tell you? All the clues here are real.
Hello.
Please understand, I'm rooting for you. I find that unlikely, but okay. If you don't learn about the full extent of the outside world, you guys will suffer for it. I just want to help you guys so you can live well-adjusted lives in the outside world. I see. So that's how it is. That's what he meant by what he said at the beginning. Well, as the headmaster, I'm conflicted, you know? On one hand, I'm really happy that you're finally going to graduate. But on the other hand, I'm worried about whether you guys will be okay in the outside world. That's why I'm thinking about telling you what the outside world is like before you make a decision. Whether you want to leave Jabberwock Island or stay here. He's trying to make us feel despair toward the outside world, so we'll want to stay on this island. But there's no way I'm going to do what he wants. Despair like that simply can't exist. The outside world should be filled with hope. Just like now. Perhaps... No, that's definitely it. The tragedy has been added... Oh, okay, hold on, you can't call it the biggest... I thought the tragedy was something else. This isn't the tragedy, this is the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Get with the program, get your facts straight. Yeah, it's not the tragedy, it's the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history, TM. Whether or not this incident really happened, what in the world is this ultimate despair group? I've got a sneaking suspicion another manga is right around the corner about to tell us. They're devoted to a certain student who guided Hope Seek Academy to its destruction. Are they connected to both the tragedy and the tragedy of Hope Seek Academy? Plus, that organization isn't just one person, but a group of people. Kind of the definition of an organization. But if they're known as Ultimate Despair, they're high school students, right? I mean, high school students don't have a monopoly on the word ultimate. Well, if they're actually able to do it, then I guess that's why they were called ultimates. Yeah, it's actually interesting because, so ultimate has many different, or not many, but it's got different meanings, right? So the meaning that is typically used in Danganronpa here, when we're talking about, like, oh, you're the ultimate gamer, you're the ultimate sharpshooter or something, is ultimate meaning like, you know, of the highest quality, the best around. However, the other meaning of ultimate is final, right? So ultimate despair can either be read as, and granted, here's one that, well, let me finish my point and then I'll have the caveat. My point, though, is ultimate can either be read as, like, the ultimate despair can either be read as it's the, like, the biggest despair, the greatest despair that's ever existed, or it can mean the final despair of, like, this is it, it's over. This is just this despair from here on out, which is interesting. Or, I mean, the hopeful way of reading that is the final despair is like, after this, it's all uphill from here. Or not uphill, but it all goes up from here. Now, that being said, that reading is probably entirely inaccurate because this game is originally Japanese, so I doubt Japanese has identical wordplay there. So, I doubt that. I assume it's one of those meanings that they mean, and I'm assuming it's probably the first one. Right, this is actually one thing that annoys me sometimes. I'll talk to some people, and they'll be like talking about like the Bible or something, and they'll be going on with all this like wordplay of like a verse of like, oh well, this word it seems to mean this, but it also has this other meaning. It's like, no, it doesn't. The Bible wasn't written in English. Depending on the part you're talking about, it was written in Hebrew or Greek. For the most part, I think those are the two main languages. And it's like, whatever clever little word plays, you know, don't. A lot of the nuance of the language is lost in translation, and you don't get to just insert on top of it the nuances in your language because those didn't exist in the original language, in all likelihood. Anyway, so. Anyway, there's no use! I'm going to freeze to death. I'm at my limit. I need to get out of here. Shivering, I ran out of the freezing room. A lot of hardcore fans insist on saying super high school level. I did notice when I watched the first season of the anime, they always did that. Referred to it as super high school level. Which, I suppose maybe that's a more direct translation than Ultimate. But I think Ultimate generally gets the point across as long as you're not being cute with it and saying like, oh, Ultimate could technically mean final. Anyways, that was close. I know, it froze to death. So where should I go next? Probably in whatever the only door that is openable at the moment is. The one openable door is going to be 5B. Hello. No, I should ignore it. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see him. No, can't ignore Monokuma. Why, hello, Hajime. I hope you're doing pleasantly well. What have you missed, Jedi Steve? Oh, I've just been reading some manga, honestly. Getting a bunch of details on, you know, the tragedy, the other tragedy, the reserve course. Why, hello, Hajime. I hope you're doing pleasingly well. Are you pleasingly well? You're pleasingly well, right? What are you doing here?
No.
Well, there was another thing I needed to tell you on this floor. I got bored of drawing manga. Can you forgive me for telling you by word of mouth? You should have done that from the beginning. I didn't want to read your manga in the first place. A high school student who doesn't like manga is like a sumo wrestler who doesn't like eating hot pots. Malnourished. I'm getting really fed up with your babbling. Hurry up. What did you need to tell me? It's about that key piece of information you've been waiting so long for.
What?
Surprise, it's about ultimate despair. Huh? Ahem. Even though the term ultimate despair refers to a group these days,
Actually,
it was originally the title for a high school girl who was the most powerful, evil, and feared person alive. A high school girl.
me.
Lady Junko Inoshima. Junko Inoshima?
Hey,
As the former Ultimate Despair, she created a despair brimming with charm and humor. And created the Ultimate Despairs. There was one really horrible person in that group.
Don't fuck with me.
Hold on a sec. I don't know what the Ultimate Despairs are, but it's not that easy to form an organization. There's no way people would join some fucked up organization created by high school girls.
unbelievable.
Humans who are obsessed with their philosophy have an uncanny power to attract others. It's a trait shared by many famous leaders throughout history, right? There's nothing strange about it. It's also worth noting a lot of, big movements are led and started by surprisingly young people, right? And, Napoleon as an example. And granted, I know Napoleon didn't start the French Revolution, but he ends up taking over the French Revolution, basically. And, he was a young guy at the time. Especially, I don't know off the top of my head specifically, but, he was only just kind of starting his military career when the Revolution broke out, I think. So, Founding Fathers of the United States had a lot of young guys there, too. Famously, Alexander Hamilton, pretty young, as, displayed in the musical. Anyways, it's a trait shared by many famous leaders throughout history, right? There's nothing strange about it.
Hey,
This is the first stream I'm watching your Danganronpa 2 series. Why is he British? Well, he's not. It's my best attempt at a mobster voice. It sounded a lot better when he was just saying "fuck off" all the time, but he's mellowed out since then, so. It's actually kind of annoying from my perspective because, especially in a game where the characters have a certain pattern of speech that when each character has their own distinct voice and pattern of speech, yeah, almost Irish. That's more so what I'm going for, kind of Irish mobster sort of sound, but. A lot of times when you're doing the voice, I kind of lock on to a specific sort of turn of phrase or something that really is helpful for getting in the voice. And for Fujihiko, it was "fuck off!" And now he doesn't say that as much, so it's harder to get in the voice. Because he doesn't start half his sentences that way anymore. Anyways, that holds true for Lady Junko. With her charismatic ability to attract people, she even influenced those in the highest echelons of power.
phew.
Her connections were the main reason that incident became the tragedy in the first place. So she even recruited people who would have been in a position to neutralize the threat?
Huh?
Then what was his purpose?
Huh?
What? Like I said, why did they just cause that incident? Doesn't even make any sense. They had a purpose, right? There's no way they'd do whatever they did without any purpose.
Hey,
It was Junko Inoshima's despair. Huh? For Junko Inoshima's despair isn't about purpose, a set of principles, a way of life, or an instinct. Despair is what defines Junko Inoshima as Junko Inoshima. What are you saying? I am a stuffed plushie. Hajime is a human. It's exactly like that. Saying Junko is despair? Junko Inoshima is full of so much despair that she is truly hopeless. Living, dying, eating, loving. For her, everything is despair. I will say, one thing that is making me somewhat uncomfortable about this interaction here. Why are we talking about Junko in the present tense? She's dead, right? We should be past tensing this. Which means either, it's one of two things, either she's alive, which would be bad, or it could be a thing where because I know especially in some hardcore Christian circles, the technically correct thing is to say is Jesus is instead of Jesus was, because he resurrected and whatnot. But anyways, it could be some sort of thing like that too. Or the school didn't teach proper grammar. Maybe that's also a possibility. Occam's razor. Person literally resurrected, or people just don't know grammar anymore. I don't know. We'll see. But what the hell? With her overwhelming force of personality, Junko recruited the Ultimate Despairs one by one. She controlled their despair by taking advantage of their love, hate, grudges, anything really. Love. That's kind of reminds me of Mikon, right? Or Breakdown. She mentioned something like that. Junko's despair is far more dreadful than any other. That idea had slammed right into their minds. And so the ultimate despairs who had been recruited became nothing more than Junko's limbs. All despair, whether it was their own or anyone else's, was dedicated to Junko Inoshima. Like believers making offerings to their god. Okay, so it could be more along the lines of like the... Okay. Like a mother providing food to her children. They dedicated all despair so they could escape from despair, all in Junko Inoshima's... Hold on. They dedicated all despair so they could escape from despair on Junko Inoshima's name. So she is the despair, but she also overcomes the despair. For example, they killed their families and friends and even destroyed their bodies through relentless mutilation. That seems like a kind of self-destructive organization, honestly. And to hopelessly top it off, they completely believed it was something that they had to do. That there's no way something that crazy is possible. And there's been suicide cults in the past, so.
What?
Do you know about the final days of the Reserve Corps students during the tragedy of Hope Peak Academy? Final days?
In other words,
Junko has the power to change people's values. This is also true of famous people throughout history. Hey, what do you mean, final days? What happened to the reserve department?
of course.
They fulfilled their role as disposable limbs. They believed in what they needed to do. And so, the 2,357 students of the reserve department all committed mass suicide. Mass suicide?
What'd you say?
All 2,357 students? Why not just round it? That's a bit of a mouthful. Oops, it wasn't all of them. One person was excluded. One person was excluded, huh? Is that me? Does that make me the ultimate survivor?
Damn it.
I don't believe it. There's no way I can believe this. Will the despair Junko Inoshima? Oh, it doesn't scare me at all. I mean,
Bastard!
Junko Inoshima's already dead. Huh? Ultimate despair isn't added to the truth board section of your handbook. Reserve department has been updated. What do you make of this, Fika? Hey, Fika, is it true what you just said? Junko Inoshima is really dead?
Huh?
What, you didn't see? There's a book called Manga for Morons, Killing School Life. In that bloody classroom. A bloody classroom? No, wait. What was that you said about the Killing School Life? Like the killings were involved... We were involved, and they were killings that happened at Hope Peak Academy. As I recall, the mastermind took her own life because the remaining students worked together to defeat her.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. He just said, well, maybe he is British. See? No. Don't criticize my acting choices. Well, Killing School Life ended up falling in the end. As a result, the 6 students who survived Manga escaped from the academy.
Hey,
For Manga about Killing School Life, it was drawn with a lot of silly images and dumb gags. Oh no, they're self-aware of their somewhat conflicting tones in their work. According to that, the mastermind behind the failed Killing School Life was Junko Inoshima. The mastermind took her own life, which means Junko Inoshima is dead.
like...
Turns out that Killing School Life was part of the whole biggest, most awful, whatever incidents. Junko took away the memories of the former students of Hope Peak Academy and forced them to kill each other. Former students of Hope Peak Academy, and she took away their memories? That's just like us. And the whole thing was being filmed by surveillance cameras and broadcast worldwide. What's the limit to being cruel, a cruel asshole? The surveillance cameras were broadcasting the whole thing?
So...
Students of Hope Peak Academy are widely known as symbols of hope. By forcing people to watch these symbols of hope kill each other for the sake of survival. They're trying to fill everyone who watched the broadcast with despair all at once. That's messed up! What? That master plan was stopped? Junko Inoshima fell? Junko lost to the students that she placed in her trap, and after being overcome by despair she created, she took her own life. then Junko is no more? No matter how horrible she was, there's no reason to fear someone who's dead. Whether Monokuma's story is true or not, that doesn't matter.
Bastard!
Junko Enoshima isn't alive anymore. Then, who is our enemy? If Junko Enoshima is already dead, are the rest of the Ultimate Despairs behind this? Were people just eating popcorn and watching the broadcast? Yeah, maybe. I don't judge too harshly. And we're enjoying a, death-based thing right now. It's just fictional. Yeah. Bloodsport is a common thing throughout human history. During the gladiator in the Colosseum were popular back in Roman times. Yeah, you'd be surprised. We've got different norms now, but the innate human, like Schadenfreude, it's there. It's there. Are the followers of Junko carrying out her will? That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, the killings we're involved in resemble that killing school life. I don't know who the hell is imitating Junko and making us go through this, but an imitation is just that. An imitation.
No shit.
The students from Hope Sick Academy stopped the real deal. There's no way we'll lose to some fake. But if this is really an imitation, are those surveillance cameras the same too? The cameras all over Jabberwock Island. Are they broadcasting to somewhere just like the surveillance cameras during the killing school life? Killing school life is an added to the Truth Bullets section of your handbook. And Ultimate Despair has an update. Why has Monokuma gotten so quiet all of a sudden? Oh, never mind. Man, Hajime, you totally know about that story, huh? What? What? Do you have a problem with that? Well, I really wanted you to read the manga version since I took the time to draw it.
What are you gonna do?
Oh well, I'll just raise the flag. Flag? What do you mean, raise the flag? What's going to happen if you do that?
Ooh.
One step at a time. You're getting closer to clearing my character routes. Ew. You're not making sense again.
Well now.
Now then, I'll give you guys my all. I'll tell you everything I know, including information on the outside and the inside.
Yeah.
I'll raise them flags like crazy. I should check on my pets. How are we doing, pets? Could be better. Could be worse. Okay, do we need to talk to you anymore?
What?
What a surprise! You want to hear about the Ultimate Despairs again? No, I don't really need you to...
Hey.
Even though the term Ultimate Despair refers to a group these days, it was actually a term used to describe Junko Enoshima, the original Ultimate Despair. He just started on his own. As the former Ultimate Despair, she created Despair brimming with charm and humor, and created the Ultimate Despairs. With her charismatic abilities, oh my goodness, it's exactly the same text as before. Her connections were the main reason that the incident became the tragedy in the first place. It's fine already, don't have to keep explaining.
What?
Huh, it's fine already, but I'm just getting to the good parts. Good part or not, I've already heard this from you before. Middle of a detective game finding about the worst disaster, there's a pet. Well, I mean, you gotta take care of your pets, right? Besides, it's not off-brand. Detectives have, like, bloodhounds, right? You gotta keep them fed. What's wrong with my vision?